and Dignan, brave new work, are you ready to reinvent your organization? Embark on a journey to reinvent your organization with Dignan's compelling book, Brave New Work. Transform traditional organizational structures riddled with bureaucracy into thriving systems capable of agile adaptation. Discover the keys to evolving your company by recognizing the difference between complicated versus complex systems, adopting a people-first approach, and harnessing the power of holistic purpose. Dive into thought-provoking examples of groundbreaking companies that break the mold, sparking inspiration for fostering exponential growth and innovation within your own organization.
Sabotaging ourselves at work. What started as a World War II field manual for sabotage has inadvertently revealed a modern problem in today's organizations. Traditional businesses face a crisis due to their bureaucratic structure, which mimics the very sabotage techniques outlined decades ago. The consequences are evident in shorter company lifespans, decreased return on assets, and stagnating productivity growth. Ironically, while we're not intentionally sabotaging our workplaces, the cumbersome systems we've built are doing just that. During World War II, a CIA predecessor devised a field manual to destabilize communities and commerce through simple sabotage. Little did they know that this manual would become an all-too-familiar reflection of modern work culture. The very techniques aimed at obstructing progress in enemy territories now resemble the everyday routines of countless people in today's organizations. The central issue here isn't employees actively seeking to disrupt their workplaces, but rather the bureaucratic structures in place. These result in protocol adherence that unintentionally sabotages organizational efficiency. The impact of this crisis is measurable in three significant ways. Firstly, company lifespans are plummeting. In the past, a company listed on the S&P 500 could anticipate a 60-year tenure. Now, this figure has dramatically fallen to just 10 years. Secondly, return on assets, a reliable performance metric, has also taken a hit. Since 1965, the U.S. return on assets has declined from almost 5% to slightly above 1%. Finally, productivity growth is alarmingly stagnant. Despite extraordinary technological advancements, we surprisingly produce no more per hour than we did decades ago. Why are companies grappling with these issues? Economists may puzzle over the causes, but those working within the confines of bureaucracy recognize the problem firsthand. By acknowledging the unintentional sabotage carried out within our organizations due to inefficient systems, we can begin to address the underlying issues and build a future focused on sustainable, productive growth. Tackling organizational debt. Organizational debt refers to outdated policies, procedures, and structures that hinder a business's efficiency and growth. It often arises from automatic responses to problems and a deep-rooted tendency to rely on imposed rules. By understanding and addressing organizational debt, businesses can streamline their operations and achieve higher levels of success. Picture working at a factory that manufactures auto parts, and one day, you notice your gloves have worn out. Ideally, you should be able to grab a new pair quickly and get back to work. However, for many organizations, this simple task becomes a bureaucratic nightmare. Take the auto manufacturer Fevai as an example. This company has managed to thrive and even export auto parts to China despite fierce competition. However, Fevai wasn't always successful, having once suffered under the weight of oppressive bureaucracy. In the past, an employee who needed new gloves would have to go through a lengthy process of verification, permission slips, and several interactions with their manager. This time-consuming and expensive process exemplifies organizational debt, which encompasses policies, procedures, and structures that no longer serve a purpose or hold the company back. The idea behind organizational debt is that it may have been useful at some point, but it has since become obsolete and harmful. Organizational debt accumulates as a result of knee-jerk responses to problems within a company. When something goes wrong, the immediate solution is often to introduce a new policy or process to prevent it from happening again. This is what likely led to the convoluted glove replacement system at Favi. Perhaps there was a time when gloves were frequently stolen, and an intricate system was needed to prevent theft. However, these attempts at creating order can ultimately result in chaos, with countless inefficient rules and regulations that hinder a business's performance. This inclination to solve problems through the implementation of rules dates back more than a century, and understanding its origins can give us insight into how to break this counterproductive habit. In conclusion, organizational debt is a significant obstacle to a company's success. By identifying these outdated and unnecessary policies and procedures, businesses can streamline their operations, improve efficiency, and ultimately enjoy greater success in their markets. Recognizing and addressing organizational debt is crucial for organizations looking to adapt, grow, and outperform their competitors. Challenging legacy organizations. Assumptions guide the way organizations function, and for over a century, most have been using an operating system inherited from traditional organizations, called Legacy OS. This system, with its unchallenged structures, norms, and practices, assumes that managers think for workers, deriving from the era of Frederick Winslow Taylor. Taylor's philosophy involved measuring each step of production and offering workers a raise if they followed his exact instructions, thus sacrificing employee autonomy for higher pay. This mindset has since become conventional business wisdom, but is it time to rethink this dated approach? Every organization relies on a set of assumptions dictating how things are done, comparable to an organizational operating system. For over a century, most companies have adopted Legacy OS, with unnoticed structures, norms, and practices, such as managers, budgets, and performance reviews. Legacy organizations emerged over 100 years ago when factories were significantly less efficient than they are now. Back then, there was no standardized instruction manual for workers, who learned on the job from experienced colleagues. Production was largely artisanal and incentivized to work slowly. Employers reduced the piece rate for each part produced if workers made too many, causing limited productivity. Enter Frederick Winslow Taylor, a man passionate about measuring things. Taylor revolutionized the work sphere by calculating how long every part of the production process should take. He offered workers a raise of 15 to 30% if they precisely followed his instructions. This marked the birth of legacy organizations, where employee autonomy was traded for higher pay. In the years after, the foundation of Legacy OS, managers think while workers work, transformed into standard business practice. However, times have changed and challenging this old mindset is necessary. We must consider new approaches to restructure organizations that foster autonomy and innovation, rather than remaining tethered to the limitations of an outdated system. Complex versus complicated systems. Organizations are complex systems, not complicated ones. Complex systems, like weather or traffic, are dispositional, while complicated systems, such as watches or automobiles, are predictable through cause and effect relationships. Understanding this distinction is crucial, as managing complex systems involves understanding their intricacies and not simply applying rules as with complicated systems. Have you ever wondered whether an automobile engine or a watch mechanism is complex or complicated? Most people might assume that both words are synonymous, but there is a crucial difference that lies in understanding systems theory. The fundamental fact behind this topic is that organizations are actually complex systems, not complicated ones. So, what makes a system complicated? Complicated systems rely on cause and effect relationships among their parts. For example, removing a cog in a watch will cause it to stop working. Such causal systems are predictable, and their behavior can be anticipated and controlled to a certain extent, like in automobiles and timepieces. On the other hand, complex systems, such as weather or traffic, are characterized by disposition rather than clearly defined causal relationships. These systems are much harder to predict, and while we can make educated guesses about their behavior, we can never be entirely sure how they will function. To understand complex systems, we must learn about their unique characteristics and peculiarities, often requiring experience and intuition rather than relying on a manual. A common misconception prevalent in the traditional organizational structures, also known as legacy OS, is that they treat organizations as if they were complicated systems. By doing so, they assume that a set of specific rules or a scientific understanding of work will apply universally. However, this assumption is flawed. In reality, people are complex organisms, and when they come together to form organizations, these entities become complex systems. Unlike complicated systems, we cannot solve the problems faced by complex systems. We can only hope to manage and navigate them by understanding their unique dynamics and adapting accordingly. Roundabouts of evolutionary organizations. Rather than operating like traffic signals with rigid rules and a lack of trust in people's decision-making abilities, evolutionary organizations emulate roundabouts. By granting employees autonomy and trusting their judgment, companies can effectively address complex issues, reduce delays, and increase overall efficiency. Much like roundabouts, such organizations may not be the norm yet, but they are far more efficient and effective than their traditional counterparts. When it comes to navigating roads, most people are familiar with traffic signals as they are prevalent in the United States, with over 300,000 in existence. However, imagine an alternative mode of controlling traffic, roundabouts. Though rare, they allow for improved efficiency and safety by trusting drivers to follow the flow of traffic and yield to cars in the circle. Now, consider a workplace operating in a similar manner. Traditional companies or legacy organizations follow structured protocols resembling traffic signals, believing people need constant direction. On the other hand, evolutionary organizations follow the roundabout model, emphasizing autonomy, trust, and flexibility for tackling complex issues. Although traffic signals are widespread, it doesn't automatically mean they're superior. Roundabouts reduce traffic delays by 89%, save between $5,000 and $10,000 in yearly upkeep, diminish fatal collisions by 90%, and reduce collision-related injuries by 75%. Moreover, they remain functional during power outages. Traffic signals persist mainly because they are familiar and people assume them to be effective. Legacy organizations similarly function under the misconception that people cannot be trusted and need direction at every step. The traffic signal mindset governs their hierarchical structure and instills mistrust and micromanagement. An evolutionary organization breaks away from this mindset by creating a system that enables employees to move more freely, exercise their judgment, and address complex challenges head-on. Embracing this approach can open the door to superior efficiency and effectiveness, proving that what is most familiar may not always be the best solution. Embracing complexity and people power. Transform your organization into an evolutionary organization by being complexity conscious and people positive. Recognize businesses as complex systems and value people as key drivers of change. Follow the inspiring example of David Marquet, who turned around the USS Santa Fe by empowering his crew and adopting a decentralized approach. Remember, there is no one-size-fits-all solution. Each organization must forge its own path to success. In a constantly evolving business landscape, organizations need to be both complexity conscious and people positive to truly excel. This means understanding the multifaceted nature of businesses, acknowledging the global and human complexity, and empowering individuals to navigate this sophisticated world. Complexity-conscious organizations view businesses as interconnected systems, situated within a larger, intricate environment. They recognize that every organization is unique and must adapt to changing circumstances to thrive. In addition to acknowledging external complexity, they focus on human complexity, knowing that people are the key drivers of change, growth, and innovation. People-positive organizations understand the immense potential in people, trusting them to handle complex challenges. They recognize that, when empowered, individuals can devise ingenious solutions and accomplish extraordinary results. By fostering an environment where people can experiment, learn, and take ownership of their work, these organizations can unleash the creative power of their workforce. A prime example of being complexity conscious and people positive can be found in David Marquet's leadership of the USS Santa Fe. When he took command of the underperforming nuclear submarine, he chose an unconventional approach. Instead of ordering his crew, he presented his vision and encouraged them to think for themselves. Gradually, they assumed responsibility and transformed the vessel's performance. Marquet decentralized control, empowered his crew, and effectively turned the Santa Fe into the best-performing submarine in the fleet. While it might seem overwhelming to model an organization after such an approach, keep in mind that flexibility is crucial. Abandon the dogmatic perspective of old operating systems and embrace the idea that there's no singular route to becoming an evolutionary organization. Each organization must forge its unique path, adapting and learning along the way. Rethinking structure and purpose. Reimagining organizational structure and purpose can lead to unexpected success, as shown by companies like Morningstar and Buurtzorg. The Morningstar company allows its 400 employees to write their own job descriptions and set their salaries, embedding a sense of trust and responsibility among the workforce. Meanwhile, Buurtzorg, a Dutch home care provider with 14,000 nurses, divides their staff into self-managing teams of 12. With each team responsible for all aspects of their work, the company operates as a collection of small businesses united by a common purpose. Speaking of purpose, organizations should adopt a eudaimonic focus, one that fosters human happiness and flourishing. To turn such inspiring purposes into achievable goals, companies can emulate Facebook's approach to routinely reevaluate their long-term goals and outline actionable steps to inch closer. Revamping meetings and membership. Stop and reevaluate your company's meetings and membership practices to maximize productivity and ensure a harmonious work environment. Implement a temporary meeting moratorium to identify truly necessary meetings, and ensure new hires contribute to, rather than just fit, your company culture. Imagine if you could save millions of dollars and countless hours by reassessing your company's approach to meetings and membership. By doing so, you can create a more efficient and aligned work environment. The fact is, most employees see half of the 62 meetings they attend per month as a waste of time. To tackle this issue, consider implementing a meeting moratorium. Suspend all meetings for 2 weeks and note the crucial pain points where meetings would actually be helpful. As you gradually reintroduce meetings, ensure they have a clear purpose and are well structured around that purpose. Otherwise, they might be unnecessary. Addressing membership within your organization is equally important. Assess who belongs in your company and who doesn't by examining hiring practices. When bringing new employees on board, make certain that their personalities and passions align with the company's mission and environment. However, be cautious not to hire solely for culture fit. While this may predict success in a company's early stages, it can lead to underperformance in the long run. Instead, focus on hiring individuals who will enrich and contribute to your company's unique culture. By reevaluating your approach to meetings and membership, your organization can make significant strides in productivity and harmony. Use the meeting moratorium method to pinpoint areas where meetings are genuinely valuable, and recognize the importance of hiring team members who will enhance, not just fit into, your company culture. Embracing continuous change. Change isn't a linear journey but an ongoing, transformative process. To embrace change, leaders should shift from imposed initiatives to continuous, participatory methods. Looping, a technique that involves identifying tensions, proposing practices, and conducting experiments, enables teams to collaboratively adapt and improve. By acknowledging complex systems and empowering colleagues, we can unlock our full potential. Change isn't a straightforward journey from point A to point B with a clearly outlined plan. It's not sequential, like traveling. Instead, change is an ever-evolving, transformative process. Think of how milk instantly changes the color of coffee upon being poured in. To fully embrace change, we need to rethink the way we bring about change in our organizations. No more top-down change initiatives imposed by CEOs or bureaucratic hierarchies. Real change should be continuous and participatory, engaging everyone involved. One way to achieve this is through a technique called looping. Looping consists of 3 stages: identifying tensions, proposing practices, and conducting experiments. These stages form a loop, with the end connecting back to the beginning. Loops can occur at various speeds and scales, making them adaptable for different circumstances. Imagine a team within an organization that identifies a problem. Only the loudest voices are heard during discussions. To address this tension, they propose introducing a check-in at the start of each meeting by asking a question such as, "What color is your mood?" Then, they put this practice to the test, giving everyone a chance to speak up and be heard. If it doesn't work, they'll continue to propose practices and conduct experiments until the issue is resolved. It's essential to recognize that no universal solution exists for every tension, and what works for one team might not be effective for another. Navigating complex systems requires an understanding of their unique intricacies. By keeping this in mind and empowering colleagues to contribute to the change process, we can thrive in our work and find unparalleled success.
In conclusion, Brave New Work challenges us to reevaluate the traditional organizational structures that bog down growth and productivity. Shifting from a legacy system towards an evolutionary organization requires an appreciation for complexity and a focus on the inherent potential of people. By reconsidering structure, purpose, meetings, and membership, organizations can adapt and respond to the ever-changing environment. Reinventing your organization is a continuous and participatory process that embraces experimentation, open dialogue, and ultimately, the pursuit of achieving the best work of your life.